Everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. Welcome to you if you're in YouTube land. My name's Max Peterson, and it's good to be here with you. And thanks for your ear, thanks for your time. Today, as usual, we want to try and provide you with some value and something to think about. And today is definitely going to be one of those days which is probably a little more intangible. It's not sort of very nuts and bolts, steak and potatoes, as we like to say. But, I often talk about the 5 pillars of success, or the 5 pillars that will create a high-performance business. And one of those is mindset. And I think on our last episode, we chatted with my business partner and fellow CEO in Australia, and we talked a little bit about, the power of mindset and the power of a good attitude. Today, I really want to drill down on, because of the industry that we're involved in, and I'm not talking about the construction industry or the construction business per se. What I'm talking about is the smaller vertical within the construction industry, known as franchising. It's what we do. We have close to 100 franchises in 3 countries. And, I guess the principle or the business model within the construction sector, we've all heard about McDonald's and A&W and, Kentucky Fried Chicken and all those kinds of hospitality franchises. But franchises in the building industry are certainly very uncommon. It would be a small handful of brands that have used the business model successfully internationally to really develop and grow a brand. And so what I wanted to do is, I spend a lot of my days in the sales world selling franchises to general contractors, or at least talking about the opportunity with them. And a lot of the pushback is fairly rhetorical. It's not like I hear something new very often. Because it is, coming from, this might be my 32nd year in the building game. I kicked off in 1989 as an apprentice carpenter. And, there's not much that's going around that I haven't heard before. So it's interesting that, if your attitude determines your altitude, it really comes down to, I think we've all got to at some point embrace the future, or embrace maybe something a little bit different. So I've said before that success lies outside your comfort zone. And so, I'm going to talk about some principles today and give you some really black and white examples. And heck, now that I'm a little bit old and washed up, you may not have heard of some of these brands that I'm going to quickly mention as an example as to what happens when you don't take seriously that shit changes. And I think that what we're doing with Smith & Sons is we are really on the front of the curve. Although we are 12 or 13 years doing what we do as Smith & Sons, we are still very unorthodox, or we're still deemed to be very unorthodox. And it certainly is very unusual for a general contractor to be running around under the banner of a brand such as Smith & Sons. So this is where I want to get started. Are you becoming obsolete, antiquated at best, or are you, maintaining relevance? And I think, along with relevance, we've got to be innovating, and we've got to be reinventing the way we do business. And sometimes that's relative or relevant, obviously that can be relating to technology changes in the marketplace, but certainly traditions within the construction sector is probably where, we have an equal opportunity as a brand to really develop and really forge to the front of the pack, if you like. We're very much around, for us, we've immersed ourselves in the construction and building industry. We've really taken notice of what the dynamics in the industry are. We've adapted to that as far as a business model. And I believe we're on the way to excelling at a high level internationally, doing what we do. Some examples of things that became obsolete or antiquated at best. I've got a bit of a list here. Phone books, phone booths, alarm clocks, encyclopedias, photo film, fax machines, landlines, and CDs. They're just, there's some things which were just never going to last. Like we went from vinyl records to CDs to now all I use is Spotify. And of course, there's a bit of a romantic, affiliation that people have with vinyl. And, I know a guy I don't know this guy, but I've heard the story of Dave Grohl, how he went and recorded back on analog because he just loved the texture of the audio instead of being digitally or electronically produced. So from a musical standpoint, there's things that have become obsolete. Obviously, the likes of, Yellow Pages have tried to reinvent themselves online, but there's just such an incredible amount of competition from other third parties that offer that same sort of directory-based lead generation process. I think it's something worth thinking about as I get started here, and we'll talk about this for the next 10 or 15 minutes. But, I think you want to make sure that you're not becoming obsolete or average at best, perhaps. Let's talk general contractors. And if you're a guy or gal running a construction business, or even a contracting or a subcontracting business, you want to always look for the competitive advantage. And as I, run through a lot of the sales collateral that we use and a lot of the training collateral that we use, we're always looking to sort of tweak that. And it's interesting to just look at some of the items within those training processes and resources, materials, etc., that even in the last 12 months has become obsolete, or where we can improve or develop or make better, more relevant. So let me give you some examples. If you run a construction business and you think you're above becoming left behind, average at best, I want to just run by you 4 major brands that you may or may not know. These are all started, a long time ago, as much as 100 years ago, some of these brands that I'm going to, cover off in a minute, and how, they ended up. So let's start with Blockbuster. I find that an amazing story. I think I just recently watched, ironically enough, a documentary on the downfall of Blockbuster on Netflix, which is fairly ironic, because in early 2000s, Netflix offered to buy Blockbuster for $50 million. But they ignored that offer, and of course, the rest is history, as we say. And it's amazing how that you have a company that's as strong as Blockbuster, and I'm sure everyone in the room is going to nod their heads and say, well, yeah, I used to rent videos, and I'd love to walk through up and down the aisles and look at the latest releases and things like that. And there was definitely a part of that process that you enjoyed, not just watching the video, but also to go down there and talk about late fees. I'm sure everybody's paid their fair share of late fees through that little process. But the other brand, and you really, they didn't take, and right at the end, the way I'm going to wrap up, this little bit of chit chat, Blockbuster didn't really have the vision. They didn't see the vision that Netflix saw, and they ultimately paid the price. The other brand is Toys R Us. They filed for bankruptcy in 2017, and a lot of that was because they didn't embrace the power of the online purchasing capabilities. And to give you an idea, Toys R Us started in 1948, and they had by this time they had 700 stores. So, I think you've got to be careful as general contractors that, I think there's a balance. You want to be content with what you're doing, because patience is a big part of what we do in developing a business. But if you get complacent, so you don't want to be, it's okay to be a little, to be content with what you're doing. But if you get complacent and think about, well, this is the way that, Dad built the company, and then what you can find is you're getting overrun by the competition. And so even if you're a second generation general contractor, you probably already know, whether you're executing or not, you probably already know that if you know that there's a better way of doing business, and whether you like it or not, digital, media or social platforms is definitely the way it's going. So yeah, they didn't embrace that, and of course the whole thing collapsed. 700 stores, and a company that had been started 70 odd years ago, failed to embrace, future technologies and pay the ultimate price. Another company there is Pan America Airlines. That was established in 1927. And ultimately, the reason the failure of that airline was attributed to they overinvested in the existing business model and not in future business models. And so it's amazing. And they went bankrupt in 1991. So YouTube wasn't around, Facebook wasn't around, emails weren't around, World Wide Web wasn't around. There's a whole bunch of technologies, and even in the late 80s, early 90s, they ended up on the rocks. So I think all of what I'm telling you here is just about, hey, I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. And that includes everything from your marketing, your branding, your marketing message, the way you deliver sales services, the way you deliver your construction services, the way you manage projects, the way that you recruit, the systemization within the business, everything to do with your business, I will tell you. I'll tell you the thing that is you can guarantee, the two things that you can guarantee is death and taxes. The rest of it is just, it's in the state of flux. It's a moving target. The final example I've got here is good old GM. And I think they hold the credentials for the largest bankruptcy in history. Obviously, there was a government bailout. But again, the reasons or what attributed to their failure was failure to innovate and blatantly ignored the competition. I don't know the details around that. But my warning to you is that if somebody else that you know is doing something that seems, maybe just a little bit frivolous, then you may need to just give it a little bit more respect than that and go, okay, why are they doing what they're doing? And if they were to pull it off, if they were to perfect that, is that going to actually improve the way they do business and possibly exclude me as far as being, effective? So, and GM, they're a 100-year-old business. And it's, so look, if these massive companies can fail on the back of their inability to, say, innovate or acknowledge change, then your general contracting company has the potential to just be average at best. Think about that. So let me just pivot slightly to help shock your mindset a little bit and maybe help you to be a little more open with what might be on the horizon that you should maybe embrace, or at least give some level of respect, and maybe even go deeper and apply some due diligence to. To give you some examples of some shit that might be weird or stupid or have been coined that, let me start with bottled water. There's definitely, I guess everyone would kind of head nod and go, well, yeah, I never would have thought, 15 years ago. I mean, when I grew up in the 90s and bottled water was just ridiculous. That was like weird. And why would you do that? There's perfectly good, clear stuff running out of the tap. You don't have to pay for that other than maybe in some property taxes or whatever, water rates. Why would we do that? And so, and yet today, you can buy a Big Mac and fries and have a water instead of a pop or a soda or a soft drink. So there's one example. Another example, and this will get all the single guys burnt up, but Tinder, online dating, that was super creepy, super weird. I've never done it. I've been happily married for over a quarter of a century, so I've never had to get involved in that. But in this day and age right now in 2021, it's definitely the norm. It's definitely, it's a time saver. Once upon a time, you'd hit nightclubs and that was the way it went on. Not so much these days. It's very resourceful and efficient and all of that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, that's one of those things. The other thing, which we never thought would get going, was Uber. I know that in the town we live, we don't have access to that. I've often gone back to Australia, and the option to use Uber over cabs was the go. It's definitely in some of the major centres here in Canada. It's very normal for Uber to take the place of cabs, and it strikes me as why wasn't it the cab companies that come up with this? Is where the cab companies may or may not. This may be their downfall, maybe not. But why didn't someone within the cab company come up with it? I think they just got fat and happy. And if you get fat and happy in your construction business, this is exactly what's going to happen to you. There is so much opportunity. They have literally left the money on the table. And I can't remember the founder's name of Uber, but he saw an opportunity. He saw a need, whether that was time saving or whether it was cost saving. I have a feeling it was more time saving, but he saw the opportunity and he pursued it. So that's something that's maybe a little weird, possibly even stupid, or could be called that as it became a thing. The other, let's call it a service, Airbnb. I mean, it's the freakiest thing where you can go online and you can actually book a room or a whole house and you can go and stay in someone's house. I mean, that was weirded. That weirded me out to know that you can sort of just have some stranger come in and rent your house. Like, I'd be too afraid of maybe losing my vinyl record kit if I did that. But again, that was something that was only very recent. But maybe 15 years ago, that would have just been absurd. FERKIN absurd. And the last little example I've got there is online shopping. I can't say that I was super confident with online shopping for obviously, all of the fraudulent concerns that might happen with credit cards, et cetera, et cetera. However, I am probably an Amazon junkie. I run a business here, and 2/3 of my stationary shopping would come out of Amazon. I buy a lot of equipment. I think I bought this mixing desk for this podcast and these mics from Amazon. So online shopping has very much become the norm. It's no longer something that is weird or stupid. So I guess the challenge out of that example is that, unfortunately, people's opinions and perceptions can actually become stronger than the truth. And I think sometimes if we don't stand back and just take a bigger, look at the bigger picture, we can potentially undermine our own success. So to shut all this down and just as a conclusion, I think man's opinion of the future destroyed some pretty solid brands. You got to remember that, whether it's Pan Am or Blockbuster, or Toys R Us or any of those, there was a group of humans that had an opinion about where they thought their industry was going. And what they did is they bet against the little guy. They thought, no way will this Netflix character ever render us obsolete or irrelevant. And as you know, everybody loves Netflix. I mean, we would never dream of getting in our car to go and rent a movie. That's ridiculous. Why would I do that? And of course, I got 6 kids, and they all grow up now. Netflix is like, what's a videotape? They don't even know what forget about a record. Like, what is all that? So everything is so digital. So that's where man's opinion of the future and how it's going to evolve really did destroy some solid brands. All of the examples that were destroyed, they did not embrace change. They disrespected the competition, and they lacked vision. And so, I want to wrap up by I say all of that to say this. Franchising in the construction sector is like Netflix in the early days, maybe late 90s, mid 90s. Franchising into construction. I know that Smith & Sons is not the only brand. We have a Big Brother brand, and it's $1 billion business. It's been around since 1993. So Smith & Sons has been around for 13 years. And it piggybacked off a lot of the research and development and a lot of the vision from the business owners of that brand. And that was all imported and translated and transposed to suit Smith & Sons. We are going to be the largest renovation general contractor in North America. I hope I'm going to be historically correct. I think I will be because the momentum that we're slowly gathering in 3 countries is not like anybody else or anything else. And so really that translates into the day-to-day business that we do. And so if you're sitting there, and of course, I've only just got off the phone to several individuals today, and they're in the early stages of investigating this opportunity that is Smith & Sons. They understand that there's a risk there because it's lack of education. So, I want you to investigate. If you're interested in doing something different in the building game and you're sick of going around the mountain and year in, year out, it's the same old, then you've got to step back and go, is what I'm doing Blockbuster? And if there is another little Netflix that's starting to appear and emerge in the marketplace, do I need to go and investigate that and give it some due respect? Because you may make a decision today whether you decide to join forces with a Smith & Sons type brand or choose not to, and then in 5 years from now realize that, I should have bought Facebook shares when they were $1 a piece because now they're worth $380 or $1,000. I don't even know what they're worth. So just be careful that your own opinion doesn't trip you up. I don't even want to start talking about cryptocurrency, but I have a feeling I should have bought some Bitcoin in 2014 because I would say that I'd be doing okay today, but maybe I lacked vision and I wasn't open to that, and maybe I didn't even know about it back then. So look, that's where I'm at. Look, feel free to You can text me on 250-241-8866. You can email me directly on max@businessforbuilders.ca. Look, if you want to share this information with someone, maybe you've got a business partner, or maybe you've got a prospective business partner that you want to chat to them about the possibility of purchasing a Smith & Sons franchise. I think you will not hurt yourself by just kicking tires and investigating. We will give you all the information that you need. This podcast is definitely one of those resources where you can get to know us, get to know who we are and how we think, and a little bit about what we do. But we would certainly love to hear from you. So, if you know someone that this may be of interest, feel free to share this information. Feel free to comment below, and we will get back to you as promptly as we can. But this is all towards building a high-performance building company. If you're already on it and you got it sorted, congratulations. Go and knock it dead. And we will see you on the next episode of Business for Builders podcast. Cheers.